Paris, chérie, le beau Paris, c'est toujours toi que j'aime.
Hello, and welcome to Paris Set Me Free, mini photo critiques in this case, and we're going to look at some pictures which were sent to me from Karen, who was one of the Briz girls who did a tour with me back in November, I think it was, and we'll be hearing more from the Briz girls. But first of all, Karen was asked to give me 3 of her favourite photographs, so she gave me 7. Haha, naughty. And here they are. I'm going to show some of them to you. I'll show you the 7, then I'll tell you the 3 that I've decided to focus on. There's one. It looks like a sunset or a sunrise in Paris. There's a bit of a bridge. Because it's the Briz girls, I'm slightly guessing it's a sunset. Okay, here's another one. Mirror reflection, railings in perspective, wine glass in cafe, lamppost and wall, some foliage against a wall, and some berries against a wall. Well, I'll tell you which ones I'm going to go for. Not these 3, because I like to talk about photos which have a definite link to Paris, so the lamppost is quite Parisy, but anyway. Moving on to these ones, I'm not going to go with the sunset, simply because I feel the others have more interesting things to talk about photographically. If you want me to talk about sunsets, sunrises, then I can do later. Right, let's have a look at this one, first of all. Let me position that nicely. It's a very nice picture of a wine glass in a cafe. Now, what can we say about this? You could call it a still life, although it's a little bit more than a still life, because it's still life translates nicely into French as nature morte, which means dead nature, which is a bit of a shame, really. It sounds a bit morbid. I prefer the English term still life. And in fact, it's not really dead, is it? Because look, that's a wine glass which someone has actually drunk out of. You know, I mean, this is going on. This is now. And then there's a plant which doesn't look dead at all. It looks so it looks quite lively. And there's some bread which is about to be eaten. And there's someone eating a piece of bread. So it's kind of half still life, half not. What else can we say about this? Well, I really like the way that the wine glass has been made the subject of the photograph. That's quite important, and it's a great exercise in depth of field, because you need to somehow highlight things and to show something much closer. And it's a good use of a wide-angle lens as well. You can get really close up to something in the foreground, and if you've got an echo of these, i.e. repetition of these in the background, even better. Getting fuzzier into the background because this was focused on can be great too. Now, what I think has happened here is that the focus is around about this sort of wine glass area. So the background is a fuzz. You can see that window through the window is definitely a fuzz. This wine glass is quite fuzzy as well, and and these sort of middle distance wine glasses seem to be sharp. Now, what it may be is that Karen focused on maybe this piece of bread in the hand, or this wine glass, purposely having this fuzzy so it didn't take the attention away from the person who may be the subject of the photograph. Anyway, I think it's a great framing device, this wine glass, which is echoed by the myriad wine glasses further back in the picture. This has also been put off. Is it off to one side or not? Kind of, but well, no, actually, it's kind of pretty much slap bang in the middle, isn't it? I'm asking myself, all right, this plant here. What should we say about this plant? Well, it's a plant. Is it Parisian? Does it add to the general feeling of the table? Does it merit having this leaf coming right the way across the middle of the picture? Personally, I would have kept the plant if you like, but moved it off to the side. So it was really just taking up maybe a little edge as a frame on the left-hand side. There's another wine glass. I'd say the plant is possibly intruding a little bit too much into this photograph without adding too much to the story. I'd say the story is someone having a typical Parisian meal with a nice glass of wine which is almost finished, getting ready for a refill. There's some lovely fresh bread typical of a French cafe or restaurant table, and the person's even in the act of mopping up some delicious French thing there. The person, well, we've got a bit of a nose there, well, quite a lot of a nose, and nothing else. The mouth, which could be doing the eating, is chopped off by the wine glass. I would have done something a little bit different with the person. You can anonymize people if you like, which can be quite a good idea, but watch out for things like turning people into a bit of a nose just up at the top of the picture. I'd have possibly had the whole woman's face possibly in the wine glass. You could have done that through squatting down a little bit more and putting the wine glass slightly more off to the left, to almost fill this left-hand side of the picture, and then a whole load of smaller wine glasses echoing that on the right-hand side. So a great creative use of near and far, using a wide-angle lens probably, and selective focus, and lots of character in that shot. So let's move down to the second shot I'm going to talk about. It's this one here. If I sound like I've got a cold, it's because I've got a cold. Now this is at Sacré-Cœur, I'm sure of it, on one of our tours, and it actually illustrates a similar thing. If you look at this could be the first wine glass we just talked about, and these could be smaller ones. And let's just have a look at that. You see what I mean? Wine glass, smaller ones. So that illustrates many of the same things I've just talked about. It's lovely, absolutely filling almost 2/3 of this picture, nicely off to the left slightly, with this row going into the distance. If I have a comment on this, I see you've used a slightly squarish framing. My comment may be, position this slightly more carefully. I'm not a fan of things getting chopped. This has been chopped on the bottom. Chopped on the side isn't so serious, but when you've got a lovely circular form like this, I find it's a shame to have chopped a bit of it. That should stand alone. The framing should be done by space around it, possibly the same amount of space at the top and the bottom, as opposed to it kind of being slightly brutally chopped by the by the frame. And all you had to do there was tilt the camera down a tiny little bit, and you'd have got that. Also, by moving off slightly to the right, you could have possibly stretched out this line a little bit more. Maybe you didn't want to do that, and I accept that. You might, if you wanted to do that, have a longer line going off into the distance. Then you might have wanted to stick with a more traditional landscape format to allow that. In any case, I like the idea. It's great, and nice texture and so on there. Right, the last one I'm going to talk about, hardly have any time because I've blah-blahed for too long, of course, is this one. And it's a fun framing device. There it is. We've used a mirror to frame something completely different than what's behind the mirror, which is great. There's a second mirror there echoing it. I may not have chopped that mirror off there. I may have put this mirror slightly more up around here, top left, and then this one could have come down bottom right. Quite interesting because that's got nothing in it, just blinding sky, whereas that's got an interesting detail. So I like this composition very much, like the drain pipe, and it's definitely going in the right direction. Good stuff, Karen. Thanks very much. See you again in Paris. Bye-bye.
Depuis que je suis à Paris, le jour et la nuit, je suis gris. J'ai compris la douceur de vivre. Je suis fou de joie, je suis ivre. Depuis que je suis à Paris.